members.
You want an investment edge, but all you hear is noise, hype, and half-truths. Every signal is solid information, but only if you can see the bigger picture. This is where the Quasar magic happens. Weather, charts, news, all financial signals funneled into a single dashboard. Data alone isn't enough. Quasar Markets turns it into energy, sharp, clear, precise. Optimize with Quasar Markets today. Your edge when investing.
Good morning, traders. Welcome back to Quasar Markets Live. Howard Greenberg here. And yes, Steve is finally back from New York, all slim, caffeinated, and ready to roll. We got a massive show this morning. Big story. The government shutdown looks like it's finally coming to an end. 43 days of economic darkness. And today the House is set to vote on a spending bill that could flip the lights back on Washington. Markets are reacting. Dow, NASDAQ, S&P all slated to open to the upside. Dow hit a record high yesterday, closing at 47,928. But the NASDAQ did slip a little bit as traders rotated out of the big AI darlings and more into defensive names like Walmart, Home Depot, McDonald's, and healthcare heavyweights Eli Lilly and Johnson & Johnson. It's a clear signal of where we are in the market cycle. The rotation trade is on. Investors are saying we love AI, but maybe there's something about earnings also. So let's break it down, BigBeat. What are you seeing out there?
I think that's exactly what we've been talking about for 3 solid weeks, that AI numbers aren't matching the fundamentals. Look, everything I've been saying, kaboom, kaboom. It's like it's come to reality. And I think sometimes it takes people a little longer to understand fundamentals and understand data. But when they do, that's why we built Quasar Markets, is to be ahead of the game, not behind. If you already made those moves, and you're a happy camper. Howard, last week when the market was rolling over, I said no, I want to be the ticker taker, and I did something I haven't done in roughly two decades. I went on margin. I scaled up, baby. I bought those names, Facebook, Meta. Y'all know what I did. Y'all know that I bought Netflix and Amazon and Apple, and they went straight up. I mean, and it was look, the government's not going to shut down forever. We know that. It's political, and think of it like that. We've been talking about that side of it, the political side of it, and here we go. And now the government's going to come back out, and guess what? We're going to be back to normal. And you know what? Yesterday, when I was the Dow, when I was in the New York Stock Exchange, I was selling. I was selling while the things were going up. I'm not chasing the downside. I'm not chasing the upside. I want to be prepared, and that's what we saw. So I'm feeling pretty good about this. I'm almost out of almost all of my positions now, my trading positions that I went heavy on. I think I've got a little bit left in meta to keep everybody on the toes a little bit. That's about it.
Okay. Today, definitely Tuesday was a perfect example of a two-speed market. The Dow ripped 550 points to a record, but the NASDAQ split. Investors are moving. Yeah, investors are moving out of the high valuation AI space and back into names with more predictable cash flow, as you've mentioned. Consumer staples and healthcare led the charge. Eli Lilly, Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, Home Depot, McDonald's, all higher. Now, meanwhile, the AI magnificent names wobbled. NVIDIA was down 3%, AMD off 2.7% during Tuesday's session. As Piper Sandler's Craig Johnson put it, when you have very few groups making new highs, that's a rotation signal, not a breakdown. So this isn't panic. It's portfolio reshuffling, it looks like, BigBeat. The hot money is finding cooler homes. What does it mean to you?
It means that finally, I guess I can take a victory lap. I mean, we've talked about the rotation. We've talked about it for a long time now. That look, I get it, but I want to be ahead of the game. I don't want to be behind the game, right? I don't want to be the person who's, well, I'm chasing all the time. It's just boring, and it gets old. And here we go. That rotation is going into the stocks I've been talking about. It was all about one thing: themes. And the theme this time around was weight loss drugs. We've been talking about weight loss drugs for a while. Good. Look at Eli Lilly. It's not hard to understand what's happening here. We talked about it from the perspective of rare earths. They're digging in the earth. Well, it took Caterpillar and Deere. The rare earths are starting to abate now that China's there. So guess what? I don't have Deere and Caterpillar anymore, right? So it's about having a theme before the theme happens, making sure that you understand the markets. And you don't have to be chasing and hoping and praying for 100% because you've lost so much in the last few days, right? This is about making that change. And what do we make a change in? Not too long ago, I moved into materials and into Japan. And that theme is starting to pay off very nicely now. And one thing that we've been talking about with Steve Flanagan was the dollar. The dollar was weak. Guess what? The dollar ain't weak now. The dollar is pushing back up, closing in 100 handle again. And that's what we're ahead of. We talked about dollar yen. Guess what? It's almost at 155. It's a lot of suki and sushi. So, look, that's what I'm trying to say, making sure that we're ahead of the game here. And look, I was just in New York. I can tell you the number one thing they're talking about is one thing and one thing only. That's Mamdani. And look, nobody there thinks the world's going to end because of Mamdani. No one thinks that New York City is going to fall in the ocean because of Mamdani. So I think that boogeyman is out right now, and I think Trump needed that boogeyman for the next election. So I think everybody's kind of happy about that. Is Wall Street happy? No, I don't think so. Because of what he said, because of what he might think he might do. There's a lot of things he can't do, right? So that's a big deal. The other thing is channel checks. I bought a big coat over the weekend, and I had no problem getting it. That's unusual at this time of year, right? There's another thing. There's a big push I'm seeing now for no Black Friday anymore, right?
Hey, the only thing I would say there, Steve, is you're now into, congratulations, you are now much smaller and in regular sizes. So it's also a lot easier. Just something to, what I mean? I'm just sad because because I haven't seen an increase or a decrease in what's in stores. In fact, in food stores, I've seen a decrease in the availability of things. Yeah. So, that's the only thing I want to bring out. I'm putting you back in the limelight here.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I like it. And, what's interesting is, but looking at not just clothing, but, one thing I learned in the world of shopping is look at people and do they have a bag in their hand when they're shopping, right? If they have a bag in their hand, that means that they've actually bought something. They're not looky-loos, right? Are they actually, are they making a thing? Good morning, Marilyn. But one thing that I've said is that this could be a tough one, right? This could be a tough, and look, I talked about that all weekend in New York about the K economy, and not one single person said, no, Steve, you're wrong. Everyone said, yes, the poor are definitely getting way poor. The lines at Snap, because of Snap, are ridiculous. I was at two churches over the weekend, Trinity Church and St. Paul's, and I can tell you the line for food was it was just sad, right? And there's nothing you can do really. It's just sad, and the lines are not normally as long as they are. That right there tells you everything. The K economy is in full gear, and so we need to be very, very appreciative of our lives and understanding of the next level of us. So, hey, look, the stock market pushes higher. It's like the Roaring '20s again. Read 1929. That's all I can tell people.
I'm trying to. I did have something there before you threw that in at the end for you about that. What I'm seeing actually, I don't know about you, but I'm actually seeing people are buying, and I'm hearing from retail that retail sales are good. I think people are sticking to their guns, and they are buying Christmas presents. I wonder what we're going to see on the travel front. Our vacations down tremendously.
Yes.
Those buying does that change? I have seen a lot of deals on your favorite RCL across all the different platforms, where they're trying to get you now and down the road here for some very inexpensive cruises. So that makes me believe that that's where spending is coming back on. I'm also interested because restaurants have actually done pretty well in their earnings so far. And I thought that was going to be a place where a cutback would be seen a little bit more. So I'll be watching to see that. As we start to look through individual stocks here, Steve, AMD is having a great little day today, up 6.33%. Whoops, I'm not sharing my screen, so that doesn't help. There we go. Up about 6% today after the CFO laid out an aggressive roadmap, expecting revenue growth of over 35% a year for the next 3 to 5 years, and data center AI revenue growing more than 80% annually. You buying what he's selling there, Steve?
I no, not really. We all know what NVIDIA does. We all know what AMD does. So there's no new theme here, no new thesis here. You know what? The thesis that we've been talking about with AI, you just can't miss that and not talk about quantum computing. And is NVIDIA and AMD going into the major quantum computing? And the answer is no. They're not quite there yet. I will tell you that if I were to look at anything right now, and then you talk about this secular rotation and going back, IBM, I mean, their new quantum computing chip, wowzers, that thing is unbelievable. They're 120 qubits already on a small chip. That's huge. One plate. Good morning, Ron. How are you? I'll tell you, Ron, Nicole Petalita says hello, by the way. I'll tell you, when I look at IBM, in NVIDIA and the big companies, right, that are going to push these chipsets into AMD and Micron to some degree, how much are they investing in quantum computing? Because I'll tell you, the more and more that we all use ChatGPT and the more and more we're using Perplexity and AI, we need quantum computing. It's great that these companies are building all kinds of cool products, but if we can't make it happen, look at Amazon the other day when it went down. Half the world went down, right? So it's not going to work if we don't have computing power. And so I think, as I said on FinTech TV on Monday, it's about the pickaxe and shovels. The Amazons, AWS, it's MongoDB that handles the software side of all of this, the quantum computing. It's not one piece of this puzzle. It's not writing some AI software. It's all of it. And NVIDIA is on the forefront of it on the personal level. They're in front of it on the business level. The server level, I'm not sure yet, not on the bigger level. And I think that's where the bigger money is going to be. So if I were to think that way, and there's a sector rotation, what's happening, and we're talking about it. I like IBM a little bit better. I can't believe I'm saying I like IBM so much. Good morning, Steve Flanagan.
Yeah, that one is a little bit surprising. AMD projects 35% annual growth, and Foxconn earnings are up 17% from AI. Server demand. NVIDIA also moving up on this news here. Channel check on NVIDIA is Foxconn. And after a rough day there, they are moving back up today nicely, up about 1.3% after a 3% downswing yesterday. On the value side, Walmart, Home Depot, McDonald's continue to act as safe haven leaders. In the alt energy corner, one getting hit pretty hard here is Oklo. I guess profits do matter, BigBeat. The nuclear tech startup is still almost 400% up for the year, despite a wider quarterly loss. They're aiming to deploy their first small reactor in 2027, and they're already marketing it as AI-powered clean energy.
They're right, and I like Oklo a lot. I like the product. I like what they're doing. This was a $200 stock. 193.84 was the top of the 52-week range. We're now at 107, but still hasn't produced any energy from it yet. They're working on that, but I think once they do, I think if you look at it, you got the chart up. Thank you. It's going to tell you pull up linear regression. If you pull it up on a daily chart, you're seeing what I see. There's some there. This is right where I think you could see some buying popping back into it. I do like this, but you got to make money. And that's all there is to it. I mean, a company can't survive on no money forever. Trust me, you can for a little while, but you can't do it forever. And you have to turn a profit at some point. And
right. Well, and the key is not even just turning a profit. That revenue number I have up on our screen there is not a mistake. 0. They don't have any revenue yet. They've yet to produce.
Well, they don't. But they do have assets, which is the buildings, and they do have assets like as in
real estate.
The real estate, but the machines themselves, right? That are going to produce this energy. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we'll see how that goes. We are 14 minutes from the open here. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Do us a favor, please. Hit the like button, share button, follow button. Leave us a comment. Help us reach more retail traders every day. We really appreciate it. Tick is still slightly up at about 85. Advanced decline at 1926. So that's up, but fairly neutral. DXY, I saw Mr. Flanagan just piped up in the chat, is still below the 100 level, but has bounced back above his key 99.56 close from last week. We do see the Dow, the SPY, and the Qs all set to open to the upside so far. Gold, that's the other thing, Steve. Gold continuing to catch a bid here, 41.35 today, up another 20 basis points. And silver
52, baby.
Yeah, almost 52. The other one, and we're going to talk a little bit later about copper a little bit more, back up about 1.6% here, CPER and copper looking good. Bitcoin has made a run back up towards 105, but not anything I trust yet, as I was talking to you earlier. All still perpetual future led. It's going to be choppy. Steve, oil pulling back a little bit here. WTI back below 60, Brent below 64. I did see the CEO of Chevron on, and he was mentioning they need to be above 70 for them to be really where they need to be.
That's right? What we were talking about. Yep. That's right. They do. Interestingly enough, I did dump all of my Netflix after that nice little run under 1100, and it went to 1139. Now I'm actually out at 1138.50. So I did like this run here. I liked a lot of these runs. I thought some of these were selling off for no reason here. So yeah.
Steve, bonds are rallying, yields are falling. Fed cuts odds are about 65%. I haven't talked to you in about a week. What do you think? They cut again?
We're going to cut again. Yep, most definitely. And the people that are in charge now are getting there are definitely going to be cutting 25 basis points. It's just what's going to happen. Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should get on Polymarket really quickly then. With the shutdown nearly open, the data dam is about to burst also. We're about to get all at once the September jobs report, CPI, retail sales, and PCE, inflation data that's been stuck in the bureaucratic limbo. The big question is, will it confirm the slowdown or force a repricing, Steve?
It may force a repricing. Interestingly enough, I will tell you that I think people are, and I talk about this a lot on the floor with some serious floor traders. One floor broker specifically, I won't tell his name, said that he doesn't, even if the government opens, it's still going to take time for the data to be right, collect, catch up, put the numbers in the right place. Remember job numbers are weekly, right? So if you missed 6 weeks in a row, you've got 6 times your job, and right. So what are those numbers? How do they break them out? When do they break them out? That's a problem. And so I don't even think the real numbers coming out will even be correct. Actually, I think they'll have some problems out of the starting gate. So expect that.
Okay. The MOVE index, one we don't talk about that much, which is Wall Street's VIX for bonds, has climbed from 65 to 79, Steve, as traders brace for volatility once that data does hit, right?
Yeah, 100%. Especially jobs numbers, it could look worse than it really is, or it could look better than it really is, and that puts a pricing issue. So, no, I'm a little concerned about these numbers, even when they come back packed. So, I think it'll be a highly volatile volume day, though, when the numbers.
Yeah, without a doubt. We've definitely, and today we've got a busy Fed Speak day at 9:20. You got John Williams at 10 o'clock. We get Anna Paulson at 10:20. Chris Waller, 12:15. Raphael Bostic, and at 12:30, President Trump's handyman Stephen Marin will be speaking. So if any of them hint that rate cuts are coming sooner, we could see a bigger pop in equities and gold. And Steve, as I said, speaking of gold, man, above 4,100 again, that $4,000 floor has held, moving back to the upside. You think we revisit the 4,300 levels here?
Yeah, I do. I really do. Because the problem, even with the government shutdown coming back on, you still have all the other problems in the world. This is the government shutdown with just one more problem.
Yeah. We didn't do anything to stop Ukraine or there.
Oh,
so with that being said,
oh my God, Jim Cramer now just tweeted out, oh my God, Rigetti, what an opportunity, ka-ching, buy IBM. After I've been talking about IBM this morning, now Jim Cramer says buy IBM. I guess my great minds think alike, right? Look, I get it. I understand, but the negativity around that.
Back to energy and commodities. The International Energy Agency is out with a bombshell forecast. Oil and gas demand could keep growing, Steve, all the way to 2050. That's the opposite of what they were saying just a year ago. EV adoption, as I said, is slower outside China and Europe, and industrial power needs are skyrocketing because of AI data centers.
When your politicians set policy that doesn't fit for the rest of the world in the way that we're supposed to move, this is what happens. This is what policy does. It changes the thesis and themes, because policy does set the agenda. It's what I mean. Politicians, what they say is what they say. But look at what they do, what their actual policies are. And that because of that, oil is now more popular and stronger. No, it shouldn't be that way. It should be the opposite, but it's not.
Right. It's the opposite of what they were saying. As you said, under the current policy scenarios, oil demand will hit 113 million barrels a day by 2050. In the net zero scenario, if the world actually follow throughs on climate pledges, crude would plunge to around $25 a barrel. For context, we're trading over 60, right? So it's telling you, the market's telling you where.
113 million barrels per day. Try to put that into perspective in your head. 113 million barrels per day. That's shipping containers. That's pumps. That's leather. Those guys digging it up out of the ground and pumping it out of the ground. Wow. 113 million barrels a day. Think about how many countries there are. 178, whatever. I mean, my God. And the majority of oil.
I'm with you. And it's what I've been saying. You were a little bit more on EVs are getting quicker, coming quicker and quicker. I tend to be on this time frame. And the other thing I'd point out when it comes to climate and all of that is to look at what China's actually doing. Don't look at what they announce. They open up as many coal factories and new coal plants and new coal mining facilities as they do EV built cars. So, but there are
look, I get the slowing down, but there's still more electric cars than there were last year. There's more,
absolutely
electric buses and electric everything. So it is more and more and more. I just think, when we talk about it from the perspective of Tesla and Rivian and those EV companies, they're not producing less vehicles. They're producing more. They're just not telling you how many more, and they're slowing down some and making find out which ones are popular. And they're doing that. So yeah, no, it is slowing down, but it's not slowing down as if we're not going to have EVs in the future.
And EV isn't the answer to data center energy. As we said, Okla is, and down the road that becomes the, that answer. But we're, as that's been proven, right? We just talked about it. It's further down the road than many people will actually give, we'll talk about with it. Meanwhile, like I said, AI needs copper. We've been talking about it here since Mr. Thomas brought it up. Now I'm seeing a lot of analysts calling it a ticking time bomb for explosive price action as supply struggles to meet AI and power grid demand. Between AI servers, EVs, and energy storage, the world could face a 30% shortfall in copper supply by 2035. I'm packed my bag up already, but now I think I need to get a second bag going.
Copper? Yeah. I mean, talk to me about the housing needs. I think that's the question mark, right? Because copper is in copper wiring, electric wiring. Copper is in your air conditioner. A lot of copper is in your air conditioner. So yeah, but copper is copper, and they're still digging all this stuff up out of the ground. They're going as hard as fast as they can go. I think the scare of China and rare earths and scare of China and of products makes us want to dig our own ground up before we dig somebody else's up, right? So there's still pickaxe and shovels issues here.
Well, yeah, right. And it's the amount we need. If you watched NVIDIA's data center kickoff and they said they use 5 miles of copper in one data center, you start to put that together to the amount of data centers you need, and that it is, while not a fixed supply, there is, only so much. And as you know, ramping up mining doesn't come inexpensive, and it doesn't happen overnight. So should be interesting to watch for sure. Steve, let's switch to big news out of Washington. Senate drafts landmark crypto legislation. The Senate Agriculture Committee, I know, double check that, but Senate Agriculture Committee is who oversees the CFTC, who oversees the futures market. So it is one that I know people always think I got it wrong when I say the Agriculture Committee, but they are the ones that do it. Led by Republican John Boozman of Arkansas, and Democratic Cory Booker of New Jersey, released the draft of their digital asset market structure bill. Bitcoin and Ether get formally recognized as digital commodities under the CFTC, a huge step for institutions. Crypto firms must separate their functions. No more exchange, broker, and custodian under one roof. Listing standards tighten. Only tokens not susceptible to manipulation can trade. It's not final yet, but it's the most significant movement we've seen on crypto regulation in years. For Wall Street, this means one thing: compliance clarity equals capital inflows.
Yeah, I agree with that. Clarity. That's what we need, right? And I'd like to see this be the, Boozman is and Corey are both very, opposite ends of the structure here when it comes to
absolutely. So, again, that's why I mentioned the states they represent and who they are. Republican from Arkansas with a liberal New Jersey candidate. Or
if those two guys can come together, right, then and you got guardrails. I think the question mark is how close are these guardrails to other countries? And do we set the precedents, which is what I'm looking at, right? I'm thinking
we're definitely setting the precedent. The biggest one is, and it's already started, is there's been news that Caroline Pham, who is currently running the CFTC, they're still waiting for approval of their commissioner, has been meeting with crypto exchanges to allow for the spot leveraged trading, the trading of spot leveraged products in the US, same way that we trade stocks with margin. So it would move people from offshore. It would move them out of the paper money, which are perpetual futures, and into spot futures or spot commodity buying, which would be better for it there. It sets up and basically guarantees self-custody, the right to self-custody your crypto. One of the biggest things that those of us that have been in for a long time are hoping for. And, what I like is they both see it for different reasons. Senator Booker has made it very clear that he sees it as the way to democratize financial markets for his, underrepresented and the bottom of the K, while Bozeman is more of a libertarian and Boozman rather, and just sort of running the the Republican line there. So you happy with what you've seen so far?
No, not really. I don't really. I mean, I don't really know. I don't. It's one thing to bill. It's one thing to write it. It's one thing to pass it. It's one thing to put it into action, right? So it's a little concerning. I don't really know. We're now open. The market's open here. I am long Meta, slipping a little bit here. Just real quick, I saw this popping across the screens. Commercial mortgage-backed securities have now reached the highest delinquency rate in history. There's your answer to copper, right? If new homes aren't being built and things like that, then we do have an issue. I'm going to keep my eye here on Meta. I do think that we are seeing some selling here in the Qs here, pretty heavy. Start the game out here. I am probably
pretty flat here. Advanced decline stays fairly flat to where it was in the pre-market, 1792. So not really much of a move there. DXY's first move was to the downside, but off an elevated run this morning. Dow Jones up 24 basis points, or excuse me, 33 basis points back above 48. Did just set a new all-time high on the Dow. SPY back up to 684.24 here, but it's moving to the downside on the open. Qs hit pretty hard again here on the open. Still up 31 basis points, but at lows of the cash market.
I'm buying heavy here on Meta.
Okay.
Let's see where. And 627.25. So we're somewhere close to where I'm at. Yeah. So I'm expecting a little bit of a pop here after this quick sell-off. Oh, there we go. A little bit
AMD here. Still popping to the upside, up 7.54% here. Most of the crypto stocks were up, but those were really just because reversals of yesterday's moves. We do see Rocket Labs up another 2.8% here today, so nice little move to the upside. Things that were down earlier today, Baidu down about 2.41%. We'll take a look and see what's moving so far.
Ouch.
AMD, the big leader of the day, up 7.37%. We also see Enlight Renewable Energy up 7.37% this morning. Life 360's had a nice little run here today, too, up 5.81, reversing about half of yesterday's losses.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a little bit of here. Qs are holding here a little bit.
Albemarle moving to the upside about 3% so far today. eToro's having a pretty good today, up about 2.59%. Starbucks, after the McDonald's news, up about 2.52% there. We do see Decker's Outdoor up 2.51 again, continuing to see that rotation. One that Steve was watching a few weeks ago, Peloton, up about 2.34% here this morning. Also, and Urban Outfitters sticking in that retail sector, up about 2.98%. On the downside here, we're looking at, that's not a big enough company.
Tick slipping a bit. Silver dropping 177 here. It's interesting. It seems like there's profit taking going on a little bit.
Palantir at 186.60. You're talking about crypto. It's not profit taking. It's just all.
No, I'm sorry. Stocks here. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Lucid down about 1.79. Could have a quiet day going into GE Aerospace, down about 2.16%. I didn't see any news on that one. That's interesting.
I think once we get this slowdown in the selling here, I think you'll start to see a pickup to the upside.
Makes sense. Tick is positive here about 100, so it is picked back up to the upside, as Steve mentioned. Dow Jones up 60 basis points, new high 48,232. I was looking, Steve. We made 1,000-point jump since in the month of October. That's a big move in the Dow, and not recovering from a pullback. Still just moving on its way to the upside. It's a heck of a run it's had. Up about, what did I figure out? It was it was trading at about 40,000, so it's up about 8,000 this year. Q's still moving to the downside here, 622.78. A lot of that's the Mag 7 with Apple, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Netflix negative. Netflix and Meta, though, just slightly negative, and Microsoft look like they want to move to the upside. Nvidia, after the down day yesterday, is seeing a rough start to the cash open, but still up about 80 basis points here. Amazon at 249.80, trying to get back through that $250 handle. Tesla up slightly. Steve, we haven't talked since they approved Elon's pay package. You think they made the right move there?
I think so, yeah. I don't like the fact that he's going to be a trillionaire, right? I mean, that's
got to hit it to make it. You
got to make it, yeah. And he's going to have to buy his own shares.
I will say, though, the way everyone says it like it's a done deal, man, makes it hard not to say you should be buying some Tesla here.
Well, I mean, remember, he's got to buy his own shares in order to push them up to that level.
If you're going from 1 trillion to 8 trillion, that's an 8x. That's crypto type moves. So that's pretty good. Financials moving up today, Steve. Goldman Sachs up about 2.31, really moving to the upside here. Just set an all-time high there, 82.19. Morgan Stanley, same thing, just set an all-time high, 169.77. And so did JP Morgan, 319.59. So financials really moving up. And we see Bank of America, I know it's a 52-week high. I'm not sure if that's their all-time high because of the way their stock has moved over the years.
Okay, Matt, I can stop now. Yeah, Bitcoin's still slipping here. Tesla down. Eli Lilly up 2% here. Over $1,000 a share now.
Yeah. Chip stocks are all taking a nice move to the upside. So technology on the chip level is moving to the upside so far. Okay, tick is pretty positive here. Qs are up 11 basis points, but at the lows of the day, most of that being the Mag 7. If we look at the different indices of the S&P, energy is down, communications is down, and real estate is down. All the other sectors are trading to the upside. Yeah. Nothing's up more than 1 percentage point, so it's more of a broad recovery than a short one or a narrow one like we saw yesterday. Treasuries are interesting to take a look at, Steve, here because we know they didn't trade yesterday. 4.077 here on the 10-year, so it is starting to move down. Traders look like they're believing what you just said. You move in the markets this morning. They are moving down as they would into a rate cut.
Not my first rodeo.
Brent down about 2.22% here, Steve, today. WTI, same thing, so it's getting hit pretty hard. Bitcoin 104,672, so holding up pretty well. Ethereum holding up above that 35.50, but really needs to recover. That one needs to get a big recovery to feel comfortable. Bitcoin's got to get back above 105.5 and hold to really see it move to the upside here. Tick still positive. Dow Jones is where the money is moving. 48,327 here, man. 300-point move to the upside already, Steve, on the open.
That rotation I already did a while back. I mean, that's materials. I like materials. I said that several times in the show. I like materials. And materials have pushed up. So, and I like Japan. I think this new prime minister of Japan, and this is what I did. I rotated money. American Express and BAC, Bank of America, already at the 52-week highs. AXP,
JP Morgan, Bank of America, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, all at all-time highs.
Yeah.
Schwab
everybody's mortgaging the future off.
Citi.
If American Express is high, there's a reason for it, because they're making fees off of people. They didn't pay the bills.
Yeah, no. I mean, but American Express also has their consumers. They're on usually the upper end of that K, so they
still have problems too.
Well, no, they didn't. Remember their earnings. They said that their consumer has not. They didn't even put more money away. And what we've seen is banks are actually in their earnings report right now. I think this is one I have for you. Are you worried that they have actually not increased as an overall on this earnings report the amount of money they're putting away for bad loans?
Yeah,
that a red flag.
Looking at delinquency rates and small business delinquency rates still at 1.6%. That's August, so not really
no new data they give you, unfortunately. There is a data lag, but they're telling you, the part that was surprising to me when I read it and a little bit of a red flag for me personally was that they're not putting aside more money for bad loans. So that had me a little concerned personally.
Yeah. Oh.
Well, Meta's still moving to the downside. We see.
I think the selling's done here though for the morning.
Okay, Google down about 1% here. First one across. Nvidia's gone negative on the day now. Apple down almost 1 percentage point here. Wow. Steve, I heard an analyst today. They're saying Apple's making their phones too good, and that people like me that are holding them longer and longer. And it's
I finally said that. Why I switched over, right?
You said it in a different way when I heard it, because what your thing was no one buying it because it's new. There was no new good option, no good features,
right?
Which I agree with is why I haven't upgraded. You need to give me a reason to get rid of my phone, to get a new one, so to speak, because it's a pain in the what. My wife's still bitching every day. I just bought her a new one, and all she does is complain that this password doesn't work, and she's locked out of this. I'm like, I don't know. I do mine. It happens like this. Everything works. She's one of those old school, like one app at a time. I'm like, just let it do it all for you. But Apple down at lows of the day here, 272.50. But I just thought it was an interesting take too. Hey, Steve, SoFi yesterday, I didn't look at what their stock's doing today. You weren't here. SoFi now allowing for the purchase of Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana. Actually have 4% here today.
The new world we're living in, right? Digital assets. So
yeah, this is a big deal. Nationally chartered bank. You weren't here for me yesterday to kind of go through this with, nationally chartered bank, first one to allow spot crypto purchases. Another big thing for SoFi, they're using the Lightning Network to do their remittance payments across borders. So I was really excited to see that in partnership with LightSpark. I'm now mad because we are going over SoFi with the crypto crew room today, and my advice was going to be that I like it for a longer term, and it's now up 4% since the cash opened, not making me that happy and not going to make them very happy. And
making the money, so it's all good.
Yeah, just wait for the pullback. That's all. But it's I will say SoFi impressed me. Their CEO was on yesterday, really impressed. And know what he brought up, Steve, is that. So the moat that they have over a JP Morgan, because Andrew Ross Sorkin asked a great question. Well, is it, do you just have first mover advantage for a week or two? And are we going to see JP Morgan and Bank of America and Wells Fargo follow? And what he pointed out is there's a much more major moat because they're a digitally native company like we are at Quasar, built using APIs and connectors and all these things. We're built natively to connect to many interfaces. Bank of America doesn't, their legacy banking system does not like to connect to anything. So they really talked about how
pretty soon they don't upgrade their stuff. They look like nothing. Right?
They'll upgrade, but what they do is they upgrade things in the back that allow their legacy system to connect to FedWire.
Yeah, but here's the problem. There are companies that will help them connect in the future, right? But they're not a priority.
Right. No, no, no. That's what I mean. I'm with you. I'm saying that's why I'm big on SoFi, where I've been a user of SoFi and talking to more and more people and folks in my room. Everybody agrees kids under 35 are more likely to open up a bank account at SoFi than Bank of America. They
That's
don't
correct.
care about branches. They don't go to branches. They grew up with banks in their phone. I did not. I still like to be able to physically go to my bank, say hello to Marvin, and
I
hand him
don't
a
like
check.
going to branch. I don't
I
like
don't
going to
actually. I
branch.
haven't
Yeah.
done it in years. I'm joking. The only thing, the only thing I used to use ATMs for was to deposit money from being a bartender back in the day. So, but SoFi for me is definitely one I'm very interested in, and that's a big deal. And it goes to what Bozeman, I keep saying Bozeman and Booker are working for in their bill is what is allowing companies like SoFi to feel comfortable to do this.
Yep.
The other part about it, Steve, I think was interesting. Your money stays in an FDIC insured savings or checking account until you make your purchase of crypto. And when you sell your crypto, it goes right back into it. So very interesting sort of for people who don't have any faith in the Coinbases and exchanges of the world or are worried. You go from FDIC, insured to a crypto wallet that they make sure custody is done and it's done by a third party, not by them, and then back into cash. I thought that was interesting. The other takeaway he brought is they are going to have, if they cannot legally produce a yield producing stable coin, then they are going to, like Coinbase does, have a stable coin, then have a secondary yield, just using short-term US treasuries as its payoff. So interesting. They're going after money markets. I mean, again, it's disruption, right?
We talked about this 3 years ago.
Yeah, no, it's all starting to come about. It's, we've gone from the days of the Wild West to Wall Street with crypto, and it's really the difference.
And we've been there the whole way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I know. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Hey, Zor.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. I know we got Mr. Flanagan coming in here very soon. He is out, Steve, Friday and Monday for a little vacation going.
Okay.
He's going to the mountains, doing a little skiing, I guess.
So he'll come back with a neck brace and
I don't know if he's going skiing, but I know he's going up to the Catskills. I know that.
Okay,
so we'll have him in here very soon. And hopefully you guys will play nice with each other today. Although,
I mean, he's been right. Let's be honest. This guy's
been right. He has been, absolutely. Speaking of that, DXY back above that key support level he talked about, which is Friday's close of last week, 99.56. So back above that here this morning. Good to see that. We do see Dow Jones again moving. I was going to ask you, Steve, do you think you hit 50K this year?
Yes.
48,297. Yes.
Yeah.
Whoa. That's going into the banners.
Yeah, I do. I think we hit 50,000 in the Dow. Yeah. And I'll tell you why. Because if Trump does get his $2,000 per person under 100,000 per year,
he can't do it. It's $6 billion. It's like it's more money than he brought in already. He's going to go further into the negative. He will, though, won't he? He will. He will.
And guess where that money always goes to?
Good.
And guess where that money always goes?
The bottom side of the K. I guess
you're going to go to an Apple product or Best Buy, or it's going to go somewhere. It's not going to go in anybody's pocket. They're going to gamble it away.
Go right to DraftKings or to zero DTEs or into crypto perps. All the things we don't want to see it go into.
And you're just exacerbating this gambling mentality that's happening out there.
Bitcoin back below 104. Man, it keeps falling. Doesn't give me a chance to even get into the room to short it. I called for the short. Trying to think of it. I thought it might get up on my watch list towards that 106 area, though.
Yeah, Bitcoin just dropped pretty fast there.
Yeah, you were headed back. As I said, well, you weren't here yesterday. I'm sorry, Steve. There is about the largest expiry on
No, what was the drop all about, though? That's what you got.
It's all perps. It's perps. It's perps. It's perps. It's perps. It's they trap. What did I say this morning to you before we came on? This is a bull trap, right? Because the alts are going up for no reason. They're trapping everybody into FOMO, and they keep destroying the longs, and the shorts don't get liquidated on the way back up somehow. So this is what they're doing, and it was easy to see today. I put it into my watch list. Watch for this, and everything is reversing off of it.
But I think 103 is holding pretty well, though, now.
Listen, we're not going. Oh, so what I was going to tell you, Steve, is the largest expiry we now have in options is, or the second largest. The largest is still 140K calls for the end of the year options. But the thing with that is most of them were placed while we were trading at 125 and just have not been closed out.
Gotcha.
So that's there. What is now the second and just below it is the 95K put. So we could range down to that 95K put, and I think we're going to range down pretty quickly to it. But I think we finished the year above 125. So I'm with you on that. You've said that, just before you left. So I assume you still have the same view on it. But I think it's going to be.
I think we get into the 130s.
Yeah, I think there's a flush. TD Cowen yesterday called for 141, and they're really using, the big. And here's what we need. So I broke it down yesterday for my crew. We need, spot volume. I keep talking about it. It's less than 10% of the perp volume. That is a problem. It used to be 30%. That's what we need. We need to see positivity. We need to see multi-days of 25 billion in spot volume on Bitcoin is what I'm talking about here. We'll use that as the bellwether. We need to see ETF inflows over a week that are substantial. When we were making our runs up, we were seeing 500 million to $1 billion a day in inflows. Now we get all excited about $100,000 inflow and just reversing outflows. So that structural change has to happen. You'll see it come. There are things that my folks are watching for that, have all the levels. What do we need to see? How do we see it? But one thing to watch is MicroStrategy raised $700 million in Europe doing their version of that preferred stock over there. So Michael Saylor now has 700 million to go buy Bitcoin with, which he will do quickly. He allocates it quickly. And that, again, buying that, I think it was 1,600 Bitcoin, 6,500 Bitcoin is like 12 days of supply, of creation coming off the market just from him. So that could be what moves us tremendously.
There's your buying, a little bit of buying here now in the queues.
Yeah, like I said, it's all perp led right now. Yeah, my alert keeps. I got to shut off my alert. It keeps going.
But I think that silver is pushing higher here. It's 52.27.
Metals have been more consistent, without a doubt. And I see him in the room. Let's get this started, gentlemen.
Let's get ready to rumble. Steve Flanagan's back. I love it.
How are we doing, Mr. Flanagan? Good to see you. I'm trying to shut off the alert.
Good to see you guys too. And I've got a new laptop. Let's just hope we can stay online.
All right. And that's part of what's going on, right? There's this new push, new Apple products, new Dell is becoming very popular lately. So I'm not sure what you got, Steve, but yeah, there you go. That's why Nvidia and those companies and AMD are doing quite well. People are buying the products they need to keep up with all the new computing power.
Go Dell. Go Dell.
You got Dell. All right. I like it. All right, Steve. Well, let's take a victory lap for you. You've been dead right on the dollar, the Dixie. Here we are again, flirting at 99.62. That bounce off of 99.50 again, where you called it. So, what are your thoughts here? I'm happy about my pigs in a poke, which could be the dollar yen. So, all of it's worked out so far.
So far, so good. Let's start with the dollar yen, Steve. You've got the Ministry of Finance warning on some economic weakness now. And of course, that has surged the dollar yen up to 155.04 in today's trading, which is a 9-month high. I still have my objective on that to see about a 158.75 level. And at that point, I want to be backing off because the Bank of Japan is going to start worrying, and the Ministry of Finance is going to start chirping about the level of the yen. Remember, the U.S. has most recently talked about the value of the yen getting back under control, and that is not a weakening yen. That is perhaps a stable yen. So I do think that dollar yen still on an upwards trajectory. Watch the sterling on its back. Sterling, we've got a budget coming out next week, which is going to break the mantra of no taxes. We saw that in the U.S. once a long time ago. But they're going to propose a budget that's going to include taxes. Why is it so big? Unemployment just came out and it jumped to 5% from 4.8. So the populace is not very happy. The numbers have been getting weak. Thursday has a slew of numbers. GDP expected to be plus 0.2. Industrial production expected to be minus. Trade balance not going to look good. So you've got all these numbers coming out. Then you're going to have the budget. I'm really watching sterling. I believe presently around the 130.86, last week's close, 131.63. We're well below it. I like the cable breaking the 130 level. In that regard, on the dollar yen, last week's close 153.41, and now you're at 145.95. So why isn't the dollar index presently around 99.70? Why isn't the dollar index surging? Last week's close was right on us right here at 99.56, because the euro dollar, of which is the bigger part of the dollar, is holding at 115.65, 3 ticks above last week's close. So watch the euro dollar. I believe that one's going to make a sharp move in the next 24 hours to the downside. I show good support, but I look for a break at 114.70, and that could really open us up. The fog of economic data is about to be lifted in the United States. So things are really going to get dicey.
We had that chat this morning, Steve, about that question. If 6 weeks of no data is going to be jammed into one big day, right? There could be problems with that data, right? I mean, and it could be a very highly volatile day too, as well.
And I'm going to warn you, Mr. Flanagan, you didn't trust the data before we shut down. If you start trusting it now, you and I have problems.
I was just going to say, I don't really care what the data is.
There it is.
I love it. I'm sorry, guys. I had to pipe in because I was like, oh, if he goes back on that, I'm going after him.
So the data is going to be the data. It's going to go in and everybody's going to reweight the model. So let's wait and see on that, But
you just said the same thing BigBeat is, so I want to point that out to our viewers. Repricing is the sort of a term of the day, right? We are going to reprice based upon the data. So play the hand in front of you is what both of you are saying, right?
Correct.
Okay, I just want our viewers, they heard it from BigBeat earlier. They're now hearing it from you. I want to make sure they're listening, not just hearing. Okay, everybody out there.
It's interesting. I was on the floor and all three traders from 3 different turrets all said the same thing to me, right? Is that they're not really looking at data the way that we're going to look at data from the average person. They're looking at data saying, okay, all the things that we thought about, or all these theses and themes, where we write with no data. And the question mark is, okay, but the problem is it's still the old type of way that we get the data. So it doesn't even matter if unless we upgrade systems. I mean, right now, Steve Flanagan, you haven't dropped off once on your laptop, right? So upgrading systems make a difference, right? And so that's what they need to do. They need to upgrade how they get their data as well. And I think that was a big theme that I heard all week, is that it doesn't matter. We're getting data. Yeah, we're going to find out how many more job losses, and we're going to find out about inflation, but it's all lagging data. I don't want lagging data. I want data that's happening right now. Tell me what's really going on, and then I can make a better pricing situation or decision. And I think that's, I appreciate the president saying he wants to upgrade all these machines and how we do it. I don't like the sledgehammer approach. That's not how we work in the government, but I appreciate this. And so the question mark then goes, then do you start to trust the data, Steve, if we do upgrade these machines and upgrade how we get our data?
I would hope at some point in the future that I could, say that confidently, that I do trust the data.
Well, but I'm going to pipe in here a little bit, because you will be able to, because of blockchain technology. Because what is moving is that, as we know, Commerce is already going to release their data on GDP data on blockchain, on using Avalanche, using the others. So it's something to keep in mind there. that is part of it. Is I do think you will be able to trust the data, or at least be able to see the data and instantaneously, just like everybody else does, and get all the granular breakdown of how it was produced, what was produced, and where it came from. Doesn't happen overnight, but that's what the current administration is working on. We know Howard Lutnick has talked about it, and they already started putting GDP data on blockchain.
And, we've got businessmen running in the government and business people sitting at a table on a board meeting. They're not saying, look back. They're going, what is this new data center going to do? As you saw AMD forecasting out 2 to 3 years, talking about that's the type of data we want. We want to be able to look through the forward window and drive the car. One big part, Steve, to what you were saying, and Howard, is going to be some fine dining in Washington tonight. You've got all the big weights. You've got J.P. Morgan, Jamie Dimon. You've got BlackRock, Mr. Fink. You've got Goldman Sachs, Solomon, all having dinner with the president tonight. Clearly, looking to probably one of the big things will be funding this AI, out of pocket that they're doing. So that's another little positive in there. But I did want to touch on, in looking at backwards type of data, Fed Williams, who runs the New York Fed, which is the powerful arm of the Federal Reserve, came out today.
Don't get Mr. Waller angry in Chicago.
Well, that's a second guy. Okay. He said that he's watching bank reserves very, very closely. But this is the part that gets me to our data and how I think the data doesn't matter. Because he then says it's an inexact science to determine whether liquidity is ample or not. Yeah. It's an inexact science. I would expect us to be a little bit more accurate in our predictive capabilities than an inexact science, especially when we're talking about the bank reserves. So
yeah, and I brought up earlier, I don't know if you were listening yet. Are you worried at all? One of the takeaways I got from the different earnings reports of banks is they're not putting aside anymore. In fact, they've lessened the money they're keeping aside for some bad debt. And that has me a little nervous.
Well, now I can look back in history and say, when I used to see the banks putting all that money aside, I would say, I don't know. And then they would end up taking that money back out. I think the banks have gotten much better in their predictive analysis. After all, they are leading the charge. And that's something that people don't talk about, the financial.
And just a week ago, though, reserves in banks are at all-time lows, and they're borrowing.
But that's because of the government
shutdown. Right. The repo facilities.
And let me, I have another point I wanted to throw out there on the government shutdown. I looked at the 2018-19 government shutdown of 35 days, which was the longest. The Treasury's general account at that time peaked at $402 billion. The next 2 weeks, we had a 2.1% surge in the Dow once it opened, and a 3.2% surge in the NASDAQ. Now, if we open the government, the TGA is probably over $1 trillion by now.
Right.
So if I use that logic of the last longest, because it's important that the viewers see this. This is a historic point that we're about to go through. We have never closed the government this long. So what happens when it reopens? Yeah, it trickles out. People saying flights will still be delayed, But the fact is, you're going to suddenly dump $1 trillion back into the system. So if I just use the longest previous, then I guess we got to be looking at NASDAQ 5%, Dow 3%, at least on the upside.
Steve just called for 50.
Hey, Atlanta Fed President Bostic is going to retire at the end of his term here in February.
Oh boy.
So Trump's going to get another one. So you might get bigger rate cuts here coming up.
Well, let's look at the data that's going to come out now that the fog is about to be cleared.
Yep.
Data comes out bad, the Fed's going to have to cut. The data comes out strong, the Fed may not cut, but either way, from a risk point of view, both of those scenarios are good.
Right. They're both, for fear and greed, they both lead you to the greed side, if you want to go there. And Steve, I will point out that, that U.S. data center is located in Texas and New York. Mr. Flanagan can probably speak to this, but upstate New York has fought back tremendously against data centers, crypto, Bitcoin mining centers. So when I see those are the ones that get my ears up. I'm like, whoa, this fight's been going on. And they've put so many restrictions into environmentally what you have to do a data center, and the water fears in that state are huge. So that one I don't.
But I'll tell you right now, that was a big talk in New York. Is they're not worried about Mamdani, they're worried about Texas. They're worried about all these exchanges going to Texas. They're worried about these new NASDAQ has made a very big impression and investment into Texas. Dallas could be the next big place with all of the look. Dallas knows what's up. Oil is drying up. Oil prices are low. They know they need more revenue sources. And look, the biggest revenue source in the history of the world has been out of New York City. So,
and look at what Chevron just announced, right? They're going to have their first gas-fired data center energy supply.
Gas-fired data center. That is crazy. I love that. Yeah.
So
a lot of natural gas.
Yeah, and how can you not be coming into the winter months? It's getting cold. And I think everything that we're talking about, the fog being cleared once the government does reopen, this is all playing so much into my quantum convergence. From chaos comes unity. Even look at the moves in China in the last couple of days. All of a sudden, opening up, rare earth to the world, given that 1 year. I just see so many positive things going on. I have two things that I wanted to just put out there. United States, according to President Trump, is very close now with India on a trade agreement. And let's just end this war, please, in Russia and the Ukraine. And those are two major positives that I think could be in the very near term.
And that's what we talked about earlier today was like, okay, the government's going to open maybe. You still got all the other problems. You still got all the geopolitical issues going on that we forgot about. Now they're going to be front and forward and center, right? So it's not like the world's just all of a sudden great. We talked about three things in New York. The first one was Mamdani, and nobody thinks the world's going to burn down yet. The second thing was how cold it's going to be this winter. That was a big concern with energy. And the third thing that everybody's worried about is Texas. What is Texas going to do with all of these? So the things that we're talking about, they're talking about in New York. They're talking about, right? But I think what's interesting is how do we play this financially? And this is where we're at. So tell us, Steve, how do we play this quantum convergence that you've nicknamed?
Yeah, well, I'm looking at a couple. I think the dollar is a great buy down here. I think it's moving in a very organized and controlled manner, which I love. And I want to be buying the dollar on dips. So 99.56 last week's close. Here we are at 99.70. You've got minimum risk here, and you can play this trade in and out. I mean, if it drops down through 56, you sell and get out. As soon as it comes back up, boom, you reestablish. Because eventually I think you'll hit my objective of 102, 103. That's one. Two, you've got to be in technology, in the data centers, in the big names. That's where you've got to be. Three, you've got to be looking, Steve. You talked about mining, and you've got to be looking at the domestic rare earths. They've been all sold. Why have they all been sold? Why has a Soundhound been sold? Why has all the quantum been sold? Because they don't make money yet.
Right.
And so, Steve, you've been on that for, 3 months, 4 months, talking about these lofty levels. And if you don't make money, yeah. But now they've all been hammered into the ground.
I went last week and bought all these things up because I know they would get bought back up. But then I sold them again. I can't hold them myself, and I'm a long-term trader too. I mean, it's you got to make some money. I mean, that's all there is to it. Yeah.
So I like the whole technology play. That's what's going to lead the quantum convergence, because technology really, really doesn't have borders. What I mean, when you provide the internet to everyone in the world, which is what some of these, what the Tesla system is looking to do, there's Einsteins all throughout the world, not only in the United States, but all throughout the world. Look at AI. I've been having a conversation with my son, and my son has been plugging in because he's a carpenter by trade. And, but he's always been fascinated by energy. And he has been talking to AI, and he swears that he has the idea of how to solve the world's energy problems. So
that's the kind of people we need, right? I mean, that's what we need.
My son has always been brilliant. He loves carpentry. His work is fantastic. But my point simply is, how many other people are out there that have these ideas in their mind that the ability to plug into AI is suddenly going to discover? And that is where my quantum convergence, that's the basis of how I think it all begins to grow from down up.
So it's got to grow from bottom up, meaning
Yes.
that when the not just us fintech people and finance people, but when everybody's thinking about how to solve world problems, that makes me a lot happier, right? I think we do a much better job, and I think that goes with your theme of blue collar. Let's make sure that they're in the schools as well, being educated in plumbing as we bring these kids up. I don't want to say kids these days, but as they're coming up, that we have those opportunities for them to learn as well. I like that. All right, Steve Flanagan, I know you're off. You got some much needed, deserved rest coming up for you. So we'll see you right back here next week.
All right. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys next week.
All right, my man. For those of you here at Quasar Markets, appreciate all of your love and support. We're now at 3,300 viewers. I love that. So keep that reposting and keep us out there. I appreciate that. And hit that like and subscribe button. All right, for those of you out there, we'll see you right back here tomorrow.